We're really happy to have Andrew Fink in here today. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Andy. How are you?
I like the ZZ Top T-shirt. That's a good look for you.
Thank you. It's I think this is my third ZZ Top T-shirt.
Have you seen them in concert?
No, I haven't, because I've seen videos, and their act for the last 15 years since I've been into them is pretty rigid, and which I don't blame them. They're getting up there, so I don't blame them for having kind of a set routine. But I prefer their earlier stuff, and I didn't kind of want to. I'm not going to say ruin it, but sometimes you see an older act and it doesn't elevate your.
Doesn't live up to your.
Yeah, I mean, right? They're not at the top of their game. So I've gone to see some of my old favorites. Like I've seen the Allman Brothers a couple of times. I've seen Johnny Winter play. I've seen Delbert McClinton a couple of times, and sometimes it's awesome, and it does kind of further endear you to an artist, and sometimes you're kind of like, I sort of wish I hadn't seen that.
I saw the Rolling Stones at the Palace, and we were in whatever above the nosebleeds is, and behind them.
Okay.
So but Mick was running around, and it was cool, but I'd like to see them in a little more intimate venue.
So I listened to an interview. Yeah, that would be nice. That's hard to do too. I listened to an interview with Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. And apparently anytime he and the Stones are in the same city at the same time, he's good buddies with Keith Richards. And he goes backstage and plays dice while the Stones play tumbling dice behind Keith Richards' amp. So nobody sees him, but I guess it was kind of like one of these rock and roll legends that he confirmed is basically true.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Andrew, it's good to talk with you this morning. I hadn't met you before today, but I understand... my wife actually had some of your kids in school, so it's nice to finally meet you. I wanted to go back into your background a little bit. I understand you served the country in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Can I hear a little bit about your service?
Yeah, I joined the Marines during law school. I always kind of intended to, especially after 9/11 happened. And when I wound up deciding to come to Hillsdale College, where there's no ROTC program, and I got into my studies and doing other stuff, and worked on Congressman Wahlberg's campaign in 2006 when I was fresh out of college. We were primarying at the time Congressman Joe Schwartz, who was a liberal Republican, and we thought that he didn't fit the district, and it turned out we were right and won that primary election. But that's kind of where my mind was. I was sort of thinking about. Practicing law, maybe trying to be a prosecutor or something like that. And when I got to law school the following year, I kind of just had this, not exactly an epiphany, but like a remembering, like, oh yeah, there's lawyers in the military, so maybe I could check this out again. So I called a recruiter, and he told me, no, you'll be in too much debt, you'll be miserable, go away, which is a pretty typical Marine Corps recruiting pitch. Mm-hmm. They want to see if you're going to call back. So I called back maybe a couple months later, and they said, come on out, run a physical fitness test. And I did that and signed a contract in the fall of 2008, went to OCS summer 2009, which was my second year of law school. And you can't, as an attorney, you have to take and pass the bar before you can be brought on active duty. So I had to take the bar exam the summer after law school, and I had to wait for my results, which didn't come out until October. And so in the meantime, I was working here in Hillsdale at Hillsdale College. After I took the bar exam while I was waiting for my results, I passed the bar and got my results, and I thought I was going to be able to work at the college for maybe about a year, and they wound up calling me to active duty almost right away. So I was on active duty from January of 11 to March, I think, of 2014.
So what made you decide to throw your hat into this 58th district race?
As I was looking at what I wanted to do next, I was kind of I was sort of feeling in about the summer of 2018 like I was tired of not being directly involved in trying to positively influence our policy, positively influence the strengthening of our citizens' ability to kind of live free lives under our Constitution. I wound up talking with our Senator Mike Shirkey, who is now the Senate Majority Leader. At the time, he was just representing our district. He didn't have the role of Majority Leader at the time. And I just told him, hey, if you hear about anything in Lansing, maybe working at the Attorney General's office, being counsel to one of the legislative houses, I'd be interested in that. And he wound up asking me, because he knew he was going to be the Majority Leader, if I might be interested in working part-time as his district director. It's common for leadership or people who are whose districts are far from Lansing to have either full or part-time district staff. In Mike's case, obviously his leadership, he's pretty close to Lansing and Jackson, but because he's the Senate Majority Leader, has to be in Lansing or other places more often than he'd like to be. Mm-hmm. So he needs some help in the district, and he offered me that job, and I thought it was a cool opportunity. So I was still practicing law last year, but I served as his district director and got a chance to experience constituent relations as well as see a little bit about trying to make good policy amid all of the chaos and pressures of being in the legislature. And I just kind of figured it's a role I could do well in and could represent our district well in.
So you've been in this race, and probably your critics are focused on the fact that a lot of the money supporting your campaign has come from outside the county. Darren was up this morning with another video about $300,000 that have been dedicated by a group around Consumers Energy, mm-hmm. buying ads on Fox News and other things. And to be fair, I've seen 1 million of your ads, so somebody's buying a lot of ads on your behalf. How do you respond? I heard you talk about this at the debate, but how do you respond to that criticism that maybe your main focus or your main priority would not be the district residents because so much of your money is coming from outside the district?
Yeah, well, so I will start by just saying that my only priority is going to be representing the district. The fact that many different groups, including Right to Life, Citizens for Traditional Values, the Police Officers Association of Michigan, and others, think that I'm the best candidate, and that includes Consumers PAC and the group you're referring to, which is Citizens for Energizing Michigan's Economy. I mean, they have in common that they think I'm the best candidate. I think they all think that for different reasons, but none of them think that because I told them I'm going to represent their interests above my constituents. I would never do that. I think it's unfortunate that the activity that this one group, CME, Citizens for Energizing Michigan's Economy, has weighed in here, where that those aren't really my ads. I mean, they're CME's ads. They're obviously about me, but it's unfortunate it's become as big of a distraction as it has, because they're exercising their First Amendment right. People want to know why I won't denounce them. I don't know why I would denounce them, except to say that's not my campaign. My campaign is my campaign. If you want to know what I'm all about, listen to me, not somebody else. That includes both my critics and any other outside group that's talking about me. You can listen to me. And what I'm telling everybody is I'm a conservative leader. I've been active in the conservative movement since I was in high school. And my only priority will be to represent this district well.
One follow-up, and then we're moving on from this issue. But I've read everything. You have critics online about this, and you also have a lot of support. So it's politics, I guess.
Sure.
And I think there's a perception when I talk to the other three candidates that you may be the front runner. So that does put a target on you.
Sure.
But I think it's fair to say, as a constituent, I'll be a constituent of whoever wins here, it's fair to say, why would they invest all this money, these groups, unless they expected to receive something for the investment? I mean, it's hard to believe that they would put that much money into your candidacy if they didn't expect some return. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, so first of all, the amount of money, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how you would find out. The whole idea of it being, quote, dark money is that one is supposedly we don't know the source, and yet all of my critics say they do know the source is consumers, which is what I think it is too, although as an attorney I have to say that's hearsay because that's just what other people say. I don't know that with personal knowledge, but that's my assumption, is that consumers more or less funds it, or people at consumers or whatever. And the other piece about the darkness is that supposedly you don't know how much it is, and yet people are saying that it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. You just told me, I didn't know that somebody else said it's a $300,000 figure. Honestly, that would kind of surprise me, but I actually have no idea. I don't even have cable, so I don't even see these things. So I don't know how much it is. I think that CME itself is playing in a handful of other races. Obviously, all these other groups are in other races as well. And what I think they're probably looking for is somebody who they think can understand complex issues quickly and can have a conversation and will listen to them. And I haven't promised a policy outcome to anybody, and I wouldn't. What I will tell more or less anybody, I can think of a couple of groups that I probably would be wasting everybody's time for me to be talking to. I mean, if you think that I'm going to, if a group came to me asking me to infringe on the Second Amendment, we might as well not have that conversation. Right. If a group came to me asking me to expand abortion access, we might as well not have that conversation. But in all of these other policies, I mean, the state's going to have an energy policy. It's an extremely complex thing. Consumers services, I think, about 7 million Michigan residents, 6.7 million, something like that. Not that many in our district. And I don't even think that what they're concerned about is issues in our district. What they're concerned about is that they have, again, very complex policy areas that impact energy companies. They supply energy to more Michigan residents than anybody else. And so they care about having, intelligent and able representatives across the state. The other areas they're playing in are up by the bridge, in the Thumb, somewhere in north central Michigan, in like Canton. And I think they're just trying to say, here's somebody who will do a good job. And I don't think that makes them different from other issue-based groups like Right to Life or like the Police Officers Association. I mean, they're looking at it the same way, saying, who is it who we can have a conversation with, who can understand what we are concerned with. And even if they don't agree with us all the time, which I promise you I'm not going to agree with almost anybody all the time, Right to Life might be the exception, we'll at least we'll be able to talk to this person.
So last sort of follow up to that, Darren's come pretty hard at you with this and some of your other opponents online. Does that bother you? It is a primary election, and it's been a little contentious, honestly, because you guys agree on probably 95% of things.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
But he has come after you pretty hard. Stockford has at times. Do you think that they've taken it too far? Do you think they're misguided with their criticisms?
Nobody needs to feel sorry for me, Andy.
Okay.
I'd say I'm a big boy, but I just turned 35. I think I'm done referring to myself as any kind of boy. I don't think it's necessary. If it's necessary to look, some of the things that other people have been saying, and I'm not going to get into who's saying what, because it's obviously it's a noisy conversation. Some of the things they're saying are not true. I think that's unfortunate.
Right.
And some of it is more or less conjecture about my integrity, and I don't think that's necessary. I mean, if you have to draw a distinction by making up, character attacks, I don't think that's good. But like I said, nobody needs to feel sorry for me. I mean, it's okay.
No.
I mean, I'm an adult, and I can handle some people saying some things that aren't true about me. It's not the first time that people have done that, having been in litigation and things like that. I've been in the trenches before.
Let's talk about COVID-19. You have, I understand from your debate, you have participated in a lawsuit which is targeting the governor about her COVID-19 response. What in particular troubles you about how she's handled it, and can you talk a little bit about where that stands with that lawsuit?
Yeah, so since that's the more technical answer, let's just get that out of the way. That lawsuit is still in its fairly early stages, and it's probably not going to be one of the first ones that's decided, because the specific claim in that one is about the travel restriction between multiple residences, which the governor no longer is pretending she has the authority to enforce. And as a result of that, the time pressure isn't necessarily on the same way it is on some of these other suits, where if you're a gym trying to open right now, obviously you have a better reason to be hopping up and down saying, "Judge, give me something here." And so the governor just filed her second motion to dismiss, and we'll have to respond to it. But that just happened, and once we've responded to that, assuming that it's not dismissed, which I don't expect it to be, but obviously we have to wait and see what the judge does on it, then the case will progress in a normal fashion of litigation, which can take a long time. Did you want to ask?
Go ahead. Yeah.
But my fundamental problem is that the governor has taken all of this onto herself. She's expressly said she's not interested in even hearing from our representatives and senators. So we elect 148 legislators in this state, and 0 of them are being heard about something affecting all of them, and I think importantly affecting all of their districts differently. I mean, Hillsdale and Branch County are experiencing all of this one way. People up north are experiencing it another way. People in Metro Detroit or the city of Detroit itself are experiencing it another way. All of these people should be able to communicate what their districts are experiencing to our governor, and really more importantly than to our governor, amongst themselves, and pass legislation. I shouldn't say pass legislation, but be involved in extending the emergency, which is how I think a well-functioning governmental response would happen. Because of how the governor's interpreted the 1945 Emergency Powers of the Governor Act, she is not doing that. She doesn't believe she has to. She even ludicrously was, for some period of time, saying under the 1976 Emergency Powers Act, I think is what it's called, Emergency Management Act, EMA. She was even saying for a period of time that every 28 days the emergency was over and then 1 minute later began again under the exact same circumstances. So I think the way she's behaved has been dishonest. I think it's been arbitrary. I think it's been anti-citizenship, and that's led to a lot of bad individual decisions, but the fundamental problem is just the method of decision making is not right and doesn't follow the American form of government of separation of powers and representative democracy.
So for the folks listening who are still making up their mind in terms of who to support for the 58th District, we're talking to Andrew Fink today. You get that gig, what are your priorities? Can you nail down 2 or 3 things that really Andrew Fink's going to be working hard for?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, because of the massive economic impact of the COVID, I mean, the virus, but really the response, and that's regardless of the wisdom. I mean, you could be the most pro Governor Whitmer person alive and still recognize that our state's going to have less money next year than it would have expected to. So making sure that that situation is handled appropriately, that we fund public safety, that we fund education, that we fund infrastructure before funding any kind of extra projects, whether it be, economic development grants to one-off, investments in a corporation, which is a bad way to do economic policy normally, and it's an extremely bad way to do economic policy when you're out of money. Putting off unnecessary expenditures, even if it's something we would normally want to do, like whatever. I mean, maybe there's some plan to build a new welcome center on the Wisconsin border.
Right.
If there is, we should put that off for a year. People can find a gas station. So, that's just my basic approach to the economic side of this. And then all of those things are they're actually relevant to the priorities that I was kind of amped up about beforehand, like stabilizing rural road funding. I mean, during the budget fight last year, the governor took the position for a little while that she was going to cut rural road patrol effectively in our 2 counties by about a full deputy. Well, when you only have like 13 deputies in Hillsdale County and 8 deputies in Branch County, that's a pretty massive problem. I mean, that's 40-something hours a week that our citizens are less safe than they would be.
So you're not in favor of defunding the police?
No.
I'll get you on the record here.
Yeah, you could get me on the record. I mean, and I may be coming at this from a little bit of a unique angle because my dad was a sheriff's officer in Washtenaw County when I was growing up. Yeah, so for all the people who don't like that I'm not from the county or from this district originally, I can just tell you I was raised in an extremely conservative police officer's family. And my dad went to law school at night, and so for all the people who think that I was raised with a silver spoon, I was born to a sheriff's deputy who was in the midst of going to law school at night, finished his career at the sheriff's department before starting to practice law. So I think he had a law degree for over 10 years while still working on as a police officer.
Well, that's the other criticism of you is that you're a carpetbagger.
Yeah.
And I guess that means that you haven't lived in the community long enough to really understand what the priorities are. I guess that's the criticism.
Yeah, or maybe that I moved here just to do this.
Did you move here just to run for this?
No. My wife and I met here at Hillsdale College. We both went to Hillsdale.
Lauren went to Hillsdale too?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
okay.
Yep. She graduated in 2007. I graduated in 2006. And I was not wise enough to ask her out while we were both still here. So while I was in law school and she had moved to Texas, taking a job as a newspaper reporter, is when I finally called her and explained myself and maybe why I hadn't asked her out for a long time. I don't remember if I ever explained that. I don't know if there is a good explanation for why it took
That's
me
a
so
whole
long.
other show, but I want to do that.
And so she moved back up to Michigan. We got married. I was in law school. There's no law school at Hillsdale, so I was at law school at Michigan. If there were a law school at Hillsdale, I probably would have stuck around. There was no grad school at the time either. I might have considered that too, but so I was back home living in my childhood bedroom until Lauren and I got married. Then I moved into her apartment about 4 blocks away and rode the bus to law school every day. And then as soon as I took the bar exam, we moved back to Hillsdale. I was working at the college. We were members of St. Paul, and again, had expected to be here for probably more than a year at that time. And it's only because Uncle Sam had my number that we left as early as we did that time. And when
I think of all the criticisms, I don't know about the money, but this one is not fair. And to be fair, I mean, you went to college here. You can't go to law school in Hillsdale. It's not an option.
Yeah.
And then you came back. You left the second time because you were serving in the military.
Yeah.
So I don't know how anybody can blame you for that. But do you feel like you have lived here long enough to represent us, I guess is the question.
I mean, yeah, I do. I wouldn't be honestly, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could do a good job for this district. And yeah, I mean, having been in and out of the district for 17 years, I remember when the Oakley was 2 versions ago. Derek does a great job of Handmade now. It was the Oakley before that. I remember the previous owner.
I spent a lot of money there.
Yeah.
Andrew, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, me too. Right, yeah. So, and I remember when Pastor Adams was at St. Paul's when I was a kid, a college kid, and so I've been around for a long time. I still have relationships, of course, that go back to when I was in college, not just with people associated at the college, but with people like Pastor Dan. Yeah, I think that this district, and I mean, this is the place where Lauren and I, when we even when I got off active duty and I moved back home to Ypsilanti because I had a job with my family firm. I mean, there was no firm that was going to hire a new associate in Hillsdale who they'd never met. So as soon as we could, we got back here. This is where we want to be.
Running out of time with Andrew Fink, but I do have 2 or 3 quick things to wrap up with. Lauren is into this. I see her on social media defending you. To have a wife involved, I'm sure. In a way, you don't want her to take any criticism. I know I wouldn't want my wife to take any criticism, but it is a campaign, and she's been strongly defending you. What is it like for her to go through this? And for that matter, you have 5 kids.
Yeah.
The family part of it in the middle of all of this has got to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't really like that my kids think as much about it as they do. I wish there were a way for it. It's a huge responsibility trying to run a campaign. Obviously, it's a huge responsibility to actually be a state representative. I think it's too bad that it's on my kids' minds as much as it is. I think it's too bad it's on my wife's mind as much as it is too. I mean, it obviously it can be emotional for a family, and I'm the only one who's really a justifiable target of any criticism, including without my family's. I won't say without their consent because it's not like I just did this without talking to anybody in my family. But nobody else in my family is the candidate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, of course it's hard on a family. I mean, our kids would like it if I were not campaigning anymore because they like it if I were home more. Mm-hmm. They're used to me working long hours, but yeah, I think it'll be nice to at least take a break from it.
Do you get to play your guitar much right now, or is that?
That's more or less the only hobby that I try to keep up, and so like it's kind of like realizing every few mornings, like, hey, I better take 15 minutes and read some scripture this morning. Playing my guitar a little bit is kind of the same thing, where it's like I better take 15 minutes. Or I just got my kid a drum set for his birthday.
Oh, that's trouble.
Yeah, but I better like take 15 minutes and do something that's not only not political, but not even verbal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I should just go and let another part of my brain take over for a little while.
We've talked about some of the tough aspects of campaigning with your family and everything. What's something you've enjoyed about the process?
It's amazing to meet the people that you meet. Mm-hmm. Every single person knows more about some handful of things than any candidate or representative ever will. I mean, Jim Knack, who's a Branch County City Council member who's supporting me, is a prison guard. And I remember talking to him and just saying, like, dude, whenever prison policy comes up, please, A, be available if I need to call you, but B, like, feel free to reach out, because no matter how much I focus on it, I'm never going to know as much about what life is like in a prison as a guy who's been working there for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And that's just an example. Obviously, like the farming community, which is a big part of our district, both in terms of the number of people in it and the amount of space it takes up. Right. I worked on a farm for half a summer one time, and all I really know from that is that there's so much more to know than I'm ever going to know about ag. So being able to talk to people in the district and hearing them explain, what, not just kind of like the policy concepts, but like being able to show me what happens, when when there are issues, when their lives are affected by policy. It's just awesome to get a chance to meet all these people and hear it from everybody.
So I've asked all the candidates, and you're the fourth and final one, so I appreciate your time. What are your plans for Tuesday? Have you rented out a ballroom somewhere? Is there a big Fink after party? What's the plan for Tuesday night?
No, we're not having a big party. I didn't think that was a wise use of the more than 200 people have donated. Well, 200. I think, gosh, the number of donations was 205. There's some repeats, so somewhere near 200 individuals have donated to our campaign. I didn't think it was a good use of their money to have a big party. So we're not having a big party. We're going to hunker down and try to get information. I mean, the information is going to come at the rate it comes. So we're just going to try to be quiet and prayerful. And look, we worked really hard on this. We think we've run a good campaign. We hope we win, but the sun's going to rise on Wednesday either way. And I'm not saying I won't be disappointed if we don't win, but we're going to be at peace that we've done a good job and that the Lord will be our shepherd either way. And so we're just going to hunker down and see what happens.
Andrew Fink, I know you are slammed right now as this campaign draws to a close. I appreciate your time.
You bet. It was nice to have a place I could walk to instead of drive.